Testing. I think I'm live on everything. Good morning, Europe. The markets will open in 1 minute and 50 seconds. I should be live on everything. I'm interested in doing a latency test in YouTube. I'm counting a 5-second latency in YouTube. Okay, good to know. So there you go, 5-second latency. And the markets are open in a few seconds. There we go. Up and running. Bull market galore. So good morning, everybody. It's Friday. It's the last day of the month, last day of the week. It's the last day of a lot of things. But hopefully not our shared experience. Hopefully we can carry on with that. So I have some educational things that I would like to take through with you. But let's start with Espresso. So Espresso is a concept that I have developed in an attempt to catch a sudden rush out of the gates this morning, such as what we're seeing this morning. Down here you have the gap fill where we closed yesterday. So Espresso basically says that if you take the range of the 10 minutes prior to the market open, that's the candle you're seeing here, you'll notice that the low is 82 and the high is 802. Then it becomes now it becomes a somewhat of a touchy-feely game. I'm working with about 15 to 18 points. And the idea is that, let's just say, to round it up, 20 points. If the DAX goes 20 points the low of the range before the market opens, which in this case would be 82 minus 20, that's 62, then you would want to sell short down here. But we have actually worked on a 15-point range rather than a 20-point range. And so this morning, as you can see, it would have worked really well. You might wonder, why am I not in a rush to get on board? Just because I'm just trying to get this YouTube experience to be educational rather than just being based around what I enter and what I exit. So if we look at yesterday, we had a range of just 20 points before the market opens, as opposed to a range of also 20 points. So if we look at yesterday, which was the 30th, we see, okay, well, we have this bar here at 670 to 650. And so if we subtract about 15 to 20 points from 650, we're going to get 635 to 630. If the market doesn't go that low, and if we go 670, which is the high, and we count up to, say, 685, that would fill you right here. And if we go 690, so what you are attempting to do with Espresso is essentially try and avoid this trap here. So the number has to be sufficiently large to take you out of the noise that can happen most mornings, and often does happen, but not so far away that you wouldn't be able to capture a market that surges right out of the gates in the morning. And that's a real art. And you will never get that number just right. It's a question of trial and error. I'm just going to show you the FTSE, because the FTSE has displayed a first bar negative. So first bar negative means that I'll be looking to be a buyer of the FTSE if we get below 8662. It just hit 8662.6, so it did a micro double bottom. And there we go. Come on, give me a full point. Okay. So I'm going to buy the FTSE here. My fill is 8662. So this is a first bar negative. I'd like to show you yesterday's first bar negative, because it was a very educational. So yesterday in the FTSE was a first bar positive, and I shorted here because that's what first bar positive is supposed to do. And I was about 4 or 5 points in profit at best. But then the market turned around. You may recall that the market actually went down quite quick and I had to scale into my position. And up here, I decided this doesn't look good anymore. You had 2 positive bull bars on the 5-minute. And I cut my loss here as opposed to having my stop loss up there. And I'm glad I did, because it wouldn't have worked out very well. So yeah, so that was yesterday. So to show you what it looks like on my account. So far, so good. Stop loss is all the way down here. Seems a little bit excessive. Obviously, I would be keen to move that stop loss. I'm going to try something here. I'm going to put stop loss to break even. I'm 6 points in profit. Stop loss to break even is an automated function I have on my software. But psychologically speaking, a stop loss to break even is a lovely experience because you can now focus on, should I add to my position? I would probably like to take profits soon in the FTSE. I said that because it feels as if there's a somewhat of a morning. We just approached the top of the trading range overnight, and well, I don't think that's going to happen now. I think the way that this trades, we are settling in for a trading range, but I can't lose on the position now. But I wouldn't add to it. I would need more profit. Let's look at the Dax. Dax looks like set on a gap fill. So in the FTSE, I start off with a stop loss of 20 points. It's a bit misleading to have a stop loss because I don't think I have, at least in recent times, taken a loss of 20 points. It's more likely to be 10 points. One thing I noticed during my preparation for today, you'll notice that yesterday was a phenomenally bullish day in the FTSE. And I was looking at other days where you had the FTSE break out of a trading range, which is what we did here. Do you see that? See that trading range 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 or so trading days. Well, when the FTSE does that, it has a propensity to carry on the following day and the following day. So if I can show you a couple of examples here and here. So I thought, okay, that could also be something that was on the cards today. Whoops, not what I wanted. Did I just delete my FTSE chart? And on this particular day, it had a range of 120 points, which is a lot for the FTSE. But anyway, that could be a mute point because I'm just 3 points in profit. And as I started off by saying, it feels to me as if we're settling into a trading range based on the overnight price action, and we just came up and touched that. But it was a good entry. FTSE looks weak. Sorry, the DAX looks weaker. Just keep an eye on the FTSE so I can report to you if I get stopped out, which I unfortunately fully expect to. So micro double bottom in the DAX. I want to show you the DAX on a bigger time scale. What I was mindful of this morning was, and I wanted to short the DAX. Okay, I'm giving my other account away here, but I wanted to short the DAX above yesterday's high because it felt, it seems to be a pattern at times in the DAX. It did it over here, just over here. We went above the previous day's high. And then as the trading started, we pulled back. And you just saw the same happen this morning. So far, we've just gone above previous day's high. And the seller stepped in. It's in situations like that I then like to go and look at, well, what happened on this particular trading day? So that would be on the 24th. Now, if I go to the 24th, ooh, here we go. So here's the price action on the 24th of January. Market opens. First buys positive, second buys negative, but it pays off to be a buyer below prior bar low. You see that here. Get a 10-minute. If you get a 10-minute close positive. Anyway, so the big fall doesn't actually come until much later in the trading session, but it pays off to have somewhat of a contrarian hat on in an otherwise fairly tight trading range day of about a trading range morning of about 20 to 30 points. And the last thing you want to do is to burn away your capital on a tight trading range. So, always be mindful of your surroundings. My FTSE is not performing. It's always, I find, it's always a little bit of a gut blow to have had a 1% move on doing something right, and then you see it disappear, which is what has just happened. So stopped out for 0. So you almost have to compartmentalize that in your mind. Would I ever consider a re-entry? Sure. But then it would have to go below the low. So if we go below 8662, I would consider a re-entry. I got stopped out because I felt it was a good idea to move the stop loss to break even. It seems as if the market has simply just done a retest. I didn't even get stopped out on the actual price, but the spread. That's not the broker's fault, but that's the name of the game when you are in a trading range. Would you excuse me for 1 second? Just need to punch the wall. Okay, I'm back. Do you remember that song by Rolling Stones called "You Can't Always Get What You Want"? Damn you, Footsie. So yesterday's school run. That was a big move last night. Yesterday's school run was actually one that I sold. I sold short here. I think it was had to have a second entry. So I've come up with a new name for it. It's an anti. Stand by for a long position in the DAX. I'm buying the DAX here on a double bottom. I've done it in half size. There you go. And a 25-point stop loss. Fair enough. I wasn't even mindful that the stop loss up there had changed. My trading ticket here is 4, but I put that as 2. Stupid oversight on my part, but okay. But anyway, I've looked at the 30-minute chart, and we have a double bottom down here of the. So we're just taking out the low. If you want to have fills that are better than mine, you need to use orders. You see here, my entry is 28, even though I wanted to get a fill below 26. Then you got to use orders. So the current 15-minute bar, which dictates the school run entry, will complete in 2 minutes. The FTSE is, in fact, mucking about in a trading range. If I can show you yesterday's FTSE price action for comparison. So yesterday, God, it pisses me off that text box is always there. Oh, cool. Why didn't anybody tell me you could do that? So we had the same sort of pattern yesterday, But the next 3 or 4 5-minute bars were significant bull bars. Then we had a pause at the double top with the overnight range. That continued. And then we had, some people will call it a back and fill. I actually shorted it here, I seem to recall. I had a pretty good trade. It was short-lived, but it was a really good trade. It was very clinically executed. And then the FTSE really took off. Which, when you look at the daily chart, is not something that the FTSE does that frequently. The FTSE is far more inclined to just be this docile stock index. And then every now and then it has these bursts up, bursts down. But right now, we are at an all-time high, and it's a significant breakout. And it's hard to imagine why we would stop going up today. I mean, there's a lot of fresh air up here. We're talking FTSE finally into the 10,000s. So school run and aggressive school run has an entry in roughly the same place, which is above 21,746. Still hoping to be a buyer of the FTSE down here. Still bullish. I hope that whoever I'm talking to, I hope you're well. I hope you're enjoying these sessions. But above all, I hope that you're well. Stand by on the Dax, please. I want to add to it. Better make sure I'm adding the right size. Oh, FTSE. Gotta move my stop loss up. Did any of you ever see that comedy series called Fawlty Towers? And so whenever it was a hotel set in the countryside of England. It was with John Cleese, who is one of the Monty Pythons. And so they had this reoccurring theme that when the German visitors came, they said, "Don't mention the war, don't mention the war." A big joke in England, obviously, because of the history. But I I feel right now, don't mention the footsie to me. Just please don't mention the footsie to me. Because it's, yeah. I think his name was Basil Fawlty or something like that. Don't mention the war. Don't mention footsie. I don't know if I've ever told you this, but I had a Spanish father, stepfather to be exact, and he'd been in the war, and he could get himself into an absolute epileptic fit of laughter by telling some jokes. And so obviously he's talking about it from a Spanish point of view. So if there's any elderly Spanish ladies or gentlemen, maybe you can chip in here and guide me a little bit on this cultural exploration. But apparently in Spain, they have jokes about the war. And so they call their German counterparts Fritz. So when my stepfather would be trying to tell a joke about Fritz, I never really got to the end of the joke because he was rolling around on the floor laughing at his own joke. I mean, basically a bit like what I do myself. I rarely get the punchline, but it was something to do with Fritz did something, and yeah, I'm afraid that I never got to the bottom of who Fritz was or what he did ever. I just know that my old man thought that that was hilarious. Not even sure there was much point to it. Perhaps it was just to. Yeah, anyway. Uh, in this racket, it's quite easy to get offended. You you get stopped out of a position, and the market goes 62.3. Your stop loss is 62.2, and you get stopped out because of the spread, even if it's a tight spread. And and then the market goes up. How can one not go, ah, oh, crap? I'm gonna just have to check something. We do have some news coming out. Uh-huh. just being very patient this morning, but my word, I get a sense that I shouldn't be on the sidelines in the FTSE. What I like to do, I don't really want to be a buyer at the top, but something I do to torment myself is I take the absolute lowest stake size and I use that sort of as a proxy. I could be tempted to do that. I am keeping an eye on the Dax. So far, the school run anti would have been better off, but I'm long and I'll stick to that, and I'd like to add to it. So I'm buying the Dax here at 45. Take a look at the FTSE marching higher. So basically just add it to the existing Dax position. With a 25-point stop loss, basically just making it a bought at 28 and bought at 45. So school run anti actually worked better. I've just taken a long position in the FTSE, but in like a more like a reminder size. It's kind of a size where I go, it's not a serious size, but I would add to that. It's just so I actually want to be long, and if I got a prior bar low, I would add to it in more serious size. The Dax though is not participating in that strength. I noticed the Dax going above this high here and this high here. High was 46 and 51 respectively. It went 53 and now trading lower. So I'm losing on the second position and just about to. Still winning a bit on the first position. But yeah, the Dax is vibing very different this morning than the FTSE. Trading a market that goes an all-time high is interesting, because you sort of have to remember a market doesn't make an all-time high unless there's serious money behind it. And so it's unlikely that that market is just going to reverse on a dime. Buying a stock that makes a 52-week high is just about one of the safest bets you can make in the world of stock trading. That's the whole premise of trend following, is just, yeah, you keep buying the highs. It's trading in a stupid size might seem completely counterproductive, but if there ever was an aspect to trading very small or demo trading that I would like, it would be to encourage the nervous system to add to winning trades. The idea of, well, it's moving higher, I'll add to it. Oh, it's moving higher, I'll add to it. So yeah, I'm just waiting, basically. Dax seems extremely range bound. Slow morning. When you look at the news released today, we got some news coming out of Germany. Now it's not scheduled to move the market. Sorry, I had muted myself here. I was just sighing, going, "Whew." It'll be slow. Maybe I should save my energy for later. It seems like a really slow morning. I think I'll wait a few more minutes. Damn, I wanted to be a buyer below 76. I don't have any educational material with me today. I will have for the US session, but not for this session. I don't think that German unemployment number is going to make one bit of difference. I think the DAX is just stuck in a trading range. My stop loss is very close to being triggered. They're very tight stop losses today, just 25 points. Okay, so I was wrong. No, I'm going to take profit on this news spike here and be done, because I don't trust news spikes. All right, I made a little less than 1%. Let me get rid of this FTSE. So I don't know if you saw what happened, but the DAX just spiked, but it sort of made a gap, and you saw the same in the FTSE. And when I see things like that, I just take profit because I don't trust that. So it was a pretty decent morning, although it stopped out. But yeah, that's me done. I think I got pretty lucky with my exit. Got where's the DAX? 57. The high was 65. For now. But it's just one of those mornings going, yeah, screw that. So I'm done. Thanks a lot for being here. It was a rather uneventful morning, but at least it turned out with a profit, and that's what counts. At least it does to me. I got no open orders. I'm done. Thank you for being here. It was lovely to have your company while I was trading. And I will see you for the US for the last session of the month. Bye for now.